Hello, everyone. It's me again, Alexandra Levine. Alexandra Levine Live. We are all in tonight with me, Alexandra Levine, on the America's Pulse Network. Now we're going into a terrorist organization called Jewish Voices for Peace. Remember earlier in our segment, we were talking about safety in DC? Well, this is what makes me and my Jewish peers and Christian peers unsafe. We'll pull up the first slide. So Jewish Voices for Peace is an anti-Jew group. It says yesterday ICE agents abducted Tufts graduate student Ramesses Ozurk in another example of the Trump administration's attempts to repress student voices and the movement against the genocide of the Palestinian people. This is all propaganda, by the way. Mahmoud Khalil is still being held illegally in Louisiana, and many other students have been attacked in campuses in recent weeks. And it all talks about this guy Ozurk's abduction. Let me tell you something. These pro-Hamas people are here illegally. They have extended visas, suspended visas. They come here illegally. They overextend their visas, they stay on, their visas get expired, and they still stay, and they're raising havoc on college campuses. I believe that Mahmoud Khalil wasn't even a student at Columbia University. And what did Secretary of State Marco Rubio do? He revoked the guy's visa. This guy, Ozurk, his visa was revoked too. So what are these pro-Hamas groups doing? Because they're so mad that their people are getting their visas revoked. They're doing March for Palestine, March for Gaza, rallies all over DC. What I don't like about this is it's not just one group that's involved. It's a plethora of pro-Hamas groups that are involved. So instead of having 50 people, you're going to have 100,000 people plus in DC April 5th. And they say it's freedom of speech. No, this is hate speech. They're going to scream out for the genocide of Jews. They're going to say that Israel's an apartheid state. Israel's committing genocide against innocent people. Israel is the devil. Trump is the devil. When I was at the White House, reporting at the White House, there was a pro-Hamas rally outside of that White House. And they were saying pure propaganda, calling Israel a welfare state, an apartheid state, saying that President Trump is supporting genocide of innocent people. Crazy propaganda crap. Now, Jewish Voices for Peace, their argument is we are Jewish. We are Jewish and we want peace. But we don't want genocide against the Palestinian people and the Israelis and the Jewish people. You know, people like myself, who's not an anti-Jew Jew, they're the problem. No, Jewish Voices for Peace is a problem. They're an anti-Jew group formed and funded by George Soros. Any Jewish person that goes against their own needs to get their head examined, has a screw loose, and they're getting paid. Those protesters outside of the White House, when I was reporting, they were all getting paid. And it was a rotation. You had one girl screaming for 2 hours, so she's probably getting $60 an hour. And then you have another guy screaming for 2 hours. That's another $60 an hour. These people get paid and they don't even know what they're protesting against. But for them, again, to push for a march for Palestine. First of all, Palestine doesn't exist, so I don't know what they're marching for. They're marching for a country that doesn't exist. They're swaying a Palestinian flag that's fake, made up, BS. There's no such thing as Palestine. They need to get over it. And you know what the funny thing is? If they love Gaza so much, then go there, hang out with Hamas. And by the way, again, Hamas broke the ceasefire. Israel went in there and bombed a lot of those people. They want to hang out with Hezbollah. They want to hang out with the Houthis. They want to hang out with Al-Qaeda, Islamic Jihad. You go over there and you do that and see if you survive. You have Americans that are supporting terrorist organizations in these areas, in where Hezbollah is, where Hamas is. It's disgusting. And Americans supporting terrorists. Again, we have illegal Syrian refugees in this country. We have illegal Lebanese refugees. We have illegal Afghan refugees. You can thank Joe Biden, Kamala Harris for that. The Mossad, which is the Israeli CIA FBI, warned Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken and Merrick Garland about this. And the Biden administration did nothing. That's why we have Border Czar Thomas Homan in there, who's a big supporter of Israel and the Jewish people. He went to Israel with my Jexit organization. So did Sarah Carter. Sarah Carter just got a big promotion. She's one of the directors of the administration for combating fentanyl and drugs. She went to Israel with my Jexit organization. She's very pro-Israel. I've said from the beginning, Marco Rubio, who is my senator from Florida, is one of the most pro-Israel senators I've ever had in the state of Florida. And he's one of the, I would say he is the most pro-Israel Secretary of State we've ever had in the history of our nation. Pete Hegseth, who I know personally, I'll be at the Pentagon at the end of April. He is the most pro-Israel Secretary of Defense we've had in the history of our nation. Rick Grenell is extremely pro-Israel. I know this for a fact. President Trump, as Bibi Netanyahu said, is the biggest friend to Israel. Mike Huckabee, who I hope very soon is going to go through his hearing and be confirmed as the next Israeli ambassador to the U.S., is extremely pro-Israel. He's been to Israel on and off for 30 years. He loves Israel and the Jewish people. We have to support our biggest ally, Israel. We must stand with them. They do a lot for us too. People think we're just giving them a lot of money and not getting anything back in return. First of all, we're not giving Israel a lot of money. We just started giving Israel money in the last couple of years. Israel does not come to our country like Zelensky does and demands payment. Israel supports us and they fund us with their agriculture, with their central intelligence, with their environment. Israel provides funds for the United States so we can do this. Israel has some of the most advanced technology in the world, and they provide the US with that. They are very advanced in pharmaceuticals as well, and in the medical profession. HHS Secretary RFK Jr. will be working with Israel on that. There is tit for tat here. That's why I can't stand it when people go after Netanyahu and go after our ally Israel. People don't understand what they are fighting against. You have to fight for something, not against something. That's the trick. People don't understand that, but that is the trick. So it's really important. It's really important that we support our ally. It's really important that we combat Jewish voices for peace. I said repeatedly, all the Jewish organizations need to get together. This needs to be a bipartisan issue or a nonpartisan issue. Because the problem is we have so many liberal, progressive Jewish groups that combat the conservative Jewish groups. Shouldn't be that way. I'm also trying to get on a slate with the World Jewish Congress with Harut. I'm slate number 23. Please vote for me and vote for my slate so we can make a difference with the World Jewish Congress. But we have so many Jewish groups, so many Jewish people with lots of money that can combat these pro-Hamas groups. I've called for that. I've called for Robert Kraft and many Jewish people that have pulled their money out of these liberal colleges and universities and have asked them, please, can you please put your money into combating this crap? I want them to do this. It's very important. It's very important that they do this. Because if not, then Jewish Voices for Peace lives on. CARE lives on. I combated Jewish Voices for Peace in Annapolis. Jewish Voices for Peace was supporting CARE as a part of the Anti-Hate Commission in Annapolis. Why the hell was CARE a part of an anti-hate commission? They're a terrorist organization. They're formed and funded by the Muslim Brotherhood. They hate everyone that isn't like them. But Jewish Voices for Peace were wearing their kafife garbs and supporting CARE. I combated Jewish Voices for Peace. I won. The House delegates and the House Senate in Annapolis, they voted unanimously against CARE being part of the Anti-Hate Commission. The governor had no choice but to sign it into law. If he didn't, he would have he would look like an a-hole. I know for a fact that the governor, though, Governor Westmore, supports these pro-Hamas organizations because he does nothing to stop them. Mark Elridge, who's the county executive of Montgomery County, he allows CARE to reign in Montgomery County. He allows Muslim teachers that are a part of CARE to teach their propaganda in Montgomery County schools. He has them suspended, but their teaching licenses are not revoked. It's disgusting. They have Palestinian library talk-ins or library teach-ins about Palestine. It's all propaganda against Israel. I had people go there because I wanted to know, what are they saying in these library teach-ins? They said it's all anti-Israel, it's all pro-Gaza, pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah, pro-Palestine. They say from the river to the sea. Now, I went to those same libraries and I asked for a Jewish hour. I said, I'd like to do an hour about teaching about the Holocaust. I'd like to do something about Israel education. Guess what? I was declined. Pro-Palestinian people, pro-Hamas people are allowed to do propaganda in a library. They get approved like that because they have a lot of organizations supporting them and surrounding them. All I wanted was to do a pro-Israel, pro-Holocaust education hour, and I was declined from every single library that those pro-Hamas people were at. Discrimination? Anti-Semitism at that point? What's with the double standard? I was in Milan, Italy in October. I was with a group of friends. There was a bunch of police going up and down the streets of Milan near the Duomo. And I'm like, what's going on? What's with the police? Thought it was an accident. I thought it was a burglary, fire. I don't know. Why would there be such police at 9 o'clock at night in Milan? Oh, I know why. I recorded it. A big pro-Hamas rally. All pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah. There's not a lot of Jews that live in Spain anymore, so I didn't see any Jewish people counter-protesting. I was looking for it. I was like, where's the Israeli flag? And my friends were like, you want to go over there? I said, not if I'm the only one. But all they were spewing out was free, free Palestine. Again, why don't they go to, quote, Palestine and spew out the rhetoric? Queers for Palestine, why don't they go over there? Why don't they go and hang out with Hamas and Al-Qaeda? Will they be welcomed? They seem to think it's welcomed here. Go over there. Go to Iran. Go to Yemen with the Houthis and say queers for Palestine. Say I'm a queer for Palestine. See what they'll do. See if they'll welcome you with open arms. See if they will. But the fact that these organizations get together and they can put together events in a day and they get 100 to 300,000 people there, it's not good how organized they are. And they organize these weeks in advance, sometimes months in advance. Again, Passover and Easter are coming up. Passover starts April 12th, the evening of April 12th to the 20th. Easter is right on that weekend between the 19th and 20th of April. Am I going to have a good Passover this year? Are Christians going to have a good Easter this year? Or are we going to have to worry that we're going to be attacked? Thank God to President Trump that he's revoking these visas and he's getting rid of all the Gaza encampments, and Congresswoman Elise Stefanik combated anti-Semitism on college campuses, and she's going to continue to do it and push Title IX. And all these BDS resolutions, these boycott, divest, and sanction resolutions that were passed on college campuses, thank God, are non-binding, and they're not going to have merit. I was at Towson University when a fake BDS resolution was passed. The Jewish kids at Towson University were so in pain, and we all cried together. We were all comforting each other. I told them, don't cry. Let's be strong, and we will fight this. And what you have to do is vote for President Trump, and he'll make your life better. And they did. They listened to me. They all voted for President Trump in the general. And the majority of those college kids were Democrats. Because they said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Who's going to stop this? I said, there's only one man that can stop it, and it's President Trump. I said, I don't mean to bring up politics, but these idiots that are pushing BDS and Jewish Voices for Peace, of course, testified in defending BDS. I said, Jewish Voices for Peace made it political. They want to go political. We got to fight fire with fire. And we have to call them out and combat them and not be afraid. And I told the rabbi at the Towson Hillel, I said, get on board with me, because if not, step aside. Because if you're not going to do anything to help your Jewish students, then you're no good either. You don't allow your students to continue to be hurt or threatened on a daily basis. Columbia University Jewish students were forced to do their classes remotely because of the high rise of anti-Semitism, because of Mr. Mahmoud Khalil. When you're in college, you don't want to do remote learning. You're trying to date. You may be getting your master's degree. That's the time where you find your spouse. You want to go to a Hillel or an organization or be a part of a fraternity and a sorority and meet people. College is a time to mix and mingle and meet people. But no. Mahmoud Khalil had to start the pro-Hamas rallies at Columbia University. He basically locked Jewish kids in a library where they couldn't get out. He hurt Jewish kids. He hurt Christian kids, innocent students. And people are mad that his visa was revoked. This Ozark guy, Jewish Voices for Peace, is mad that the visas are revoked as he's calling for the genocide of Jews, as he's starting havoc. I never thought in my lifetime I'd see this. I'm an NYU graduate. They started Israel Apartheid Week crap and BDS crap, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. Thank God I'm not on NYU today. My father wouldn't allow me to go on that campus if I was applying to their school today, and it's a very good school. Barron Trump goes to NYU. I went to NYU Steinhardt, and I took class in NYU Stern School of Business and NYU Tisch. And I went to the NYU Hillel. I took classes at Harvard University as well. I was a part of the Harvard Hillel. I led services at the Harvard Hillel. I met a lot of famous people at the Harvard Hillel. My parents actually came to Harvard Hillel and heard me conduct a service. Thank God my dad didn't see that crap. He wouldn't have liked it at all. He would have said, "You're out of here. We're taking you back to Florida now. I'm not going to have my beautiful daughter, my single beautiful daughter, up here at Harvard University in fear of her life." But I do want to encourage the students to continue wearing their Jewish stars, to continue wearing their crosses, their kippas, their symbol of their faith, and not to be afraid of showing your faith. Because that's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants you to hide your religion, to fake your religion, to not have religion, to not wear your kippah, to not wear your Jewish star or your cross, to not celebrate Christmas, to not put a mezuzah on the doorpost of your door, to not have a wreath on your door during Christmas or Christmas lights. They want you to be scared and feel vulnerable. And I talked to a lot of women that live in Montgomery County that go to the Jewish day school. And they said, we're really concerned and scared of the rise of anti-Semitism. We're thinking of taking the mezuzah off the doorposts of our door. And I said, don't do that. That symbolizes who you are. When you take that down, you take your religion down with it. And then your children, they won't know what religion they are. They'll be lost. The religion will be gone forever. It's very important that you continue to have faith. These terrorists do not have faith. These terrorists are evil human beings. They're not even human beings, they're animals. What Hamas did to 1,200 innocent people on October 7th is disgusting, unforgivable, unfathomable, unbelievable. And you can't deny that it didn't happen. You can't say, oh, this didn't exist, because it did exist. I'm actually in the process of getting the full 47-minute video of what Hamas did to the 1,200 innocent people and sending it to the colleges and universities that push these Gaza encampment crap, sending it to Columbia University. And President Trump threatened them and said, I will remove your federal funding if you continuously push anti-Semitism on college campus. And finally, the people of Columbia University said, no, we don't want to lose our federal funding. Anybody that spews out anti-Semitism, they're going to be gone. Any kid who's on a visa here and spews out anti-Semitism, their visa will be revoked. And I encourage you guys, my viewers, if you know anybody that is spewing out anti-Semitic hatred or rhetoric on college campuses, please report them to Marco Rubio, to President Trump, to Pete Hegseth, to Thomas Homan, to Kristi Noem. Of course, report them to your dean or your president or your student or your advisors, your teachers, but really go above and beyond them and go straight to the people up at the top. They'll get rid of them. They'll get rid of them. Marco Rubio will get rid of them. He will make sure that their visas are revoked, their green cards are removed. He'll make sure that they get deported back to the hellhole where they came from. Because I can tell you the majority of these terrorists, they're not students. They come here illegally, or their parents come here illegally with them, or their parents came here illegally, had them here in America. They're called anchor babies. And the thing is that these people are so radicalized and they're compromised. If they turn on Hamas, if they turn on Hezbollah, if they turn on the terrorist organization will turn on them and murder them. But again, if you know anybody, or if you've witnessed this, please report it immediately. And this is interesting. This is our last slide of the segment. We'll put that up here. Did Columbia University students know about Hamas's plan to murder thousands of innocent Israelis on October 7th? A bombshell new lawsuit suggests they might have, highlighting that the radical hate group Students for Justice in Palestine, SJP, which is also formed and funded by George Soros, posted online just 3 minutes before the massacre began, after being silent for months. We need answers about who knew what and when. What do you guys think about that? Did the Columbia University students know that October 7th was going to happen? Because the timing of all of this is rich. October 7th happens. The Israelis have the right to defend themselves. And then all of a sudden, all these groups come out, like SJP and Jewish Voices for Peace and CARE. They all come out in support of Palestine and the Palestinian people and the Gazans and Hamas. And they're all screaming and calling for the genocide of Jews. Again, there's a lot of illegal terrorists that live here in America. There's a lot of students that have parents that were former Hamas militants that live in America, or they have parents that are still living in Gaza or still living in Lebanon, but they were former Hamas militants, former Hezbollah militants, and they've been brainwashed by their parents. And they come here illegally and they raise havoc and they get paid to do it. In Gaza, you have young children that have bombs strapped to their bodies. They're martyrs. They get paid every time they kill a bunch of Jews. Pregnant women had bombs strapped to their bodies, blew themselves up, and killed innocent Jews. And when a bad person does that, that family is taken care of for life. That's real. They say the more Jews you kill, the more money you get. It's a business. Killing innocent Jewish life is a business. Those Hamas militants going in and raping and burning Jews alive and Christians alive, they made bank that day. A lot of the Hamas militants, they revealed that in testimony with the IDF, when the IDF interrogated them. It's a business. The more Jews they kill, the more Christians they kill, the more money they make. And remember, as I've always said, what happens to Jews ends up happening to Christians too. Like I said, I really hope I have a good Passover, and I hope you guys have a great Easter, because I had a crappy Hanukkah. I had a crappy Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur too, and I had a crappy Simchat Torah and Shmini Atzeret. I know a lot of people had a crappy Christmas too, and a crappy New Year. And I'm saying this before President Trump became the president again November 5th. But remember, he wasn't sworn in until January 20th. So there was a lot of havoc happening right up to his inauguration. Now, there was a lot of things that he did as president-elect. But of course, when you become president, you have more power. Again, thank God President Trump won. Thank God he's back in the White House. I thank Hashem every day that he's back in that White House, because we don't have to deal with this crap. And he's moving really quick. He's moving really quick to get rid of the terrorists out of this country, the illegals out of this country. He's actually removing a lot of the George Floyd and BLM murals. He's painting over them, or they're smashing them. Because again, these were plotted and planned movements by George Soros, who hates Donald Trump. He hates anybody that isn't like him. George Soros is a globalist, Marxist, socialist, communist elitist. I really hope that President Trump revokes his Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest medal of the land. The fact that George Soros even received such an honor, or Hillary Clinton, is a disgrace. These people are detriments to our nation. If Hillary Clinton would have become the president of the United States, oh my God, our country would have been in war with North Korea. We'd still be in a war between Russia and Ukraine. A bigger war. As you know, President Trump is working on the ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. He wants it over. Zelensky says he's willing to have a ceasefire, but he's just a warmonger because he's getting his direction by George Soros and Barack Obama. But if you see these pro-Hamas groups, combat them. Get a group of people around you. I did that at NYU. It was me and 4 other people that were combating Israel Apartheid Week. And I got those morons that were spewing out propaganda and giving out propaganda flyers to every single student that walked by. I took the flyers, I threw them all in the trash. I combated them. I wanted to know, do they even know the history of Israel? Do they even know there isn't a Palestine? Do they even know what an apartheid state is? They have no clue. They compared Israel to South Africa. How is Israel an apartheid state when it's one of the only countries where you can celebrate Ramadan and Hanukkah and Christmas all together as one? Where you have 2 million Arab Israelis. Where you have Israelis giving humanitarian aid to Gaza. Where the Israelis are actually helping Gazan children in their hospitals. When Yasser Arafat was having issues, the Israeli government said to Yasser Arafat, you can come to Jerusalem and our hospital will take care of you. But Israel's an apartheid state. Doesn't compute, guys. Israel's not the enemy here. Israel has the right to defend themselves. Again, they're our biggest ally. We must stand and support them. And it's not pledging allegiance to a foreign nation by standing and supporting our biggest ally, Israel. And we will be right back after the break.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We are still waiting for someone from the White House to come out and tell us what transpired between President Trump and Vladimir Putin on that call today. We are here live at the White House. We're waiting for White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to come out and tell us about the updates of today, the call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what transpired in that call.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
And hello, everyone. We're back. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. Yes, I am the White House correspondent for this network. It is an honor to go into that White House press briefing room with Caroline Leavitt and on the White House lawn with President Trump and many others. So in this last segment, as I talked about last week about the COVID-19 vaccines, as you know, RFK Jr. is the new HHS secretary. And as you know, the Democrats tried to pin him as being an anti-vaxxer. No, he's not an anti-vaxxer at all. He just believes that people need to take certain vaccines for certain things. When you try to push so many vaccines on a child or on a human being, it can cause a lot of problems later on. And I know for a fact that a lot of people have had bad side effects due to the COVID-19 vaccine, especially after taking 1, 2, 3, 4, even up to 9 jabs of the COVID-19 vaccine. And my friend Catcherd, he wrote about this, and we'll put up the first slide. Catcherd wrote, good, under Eric Dougherty, RFK Jr. is reportedly gutting the U.S. Vaccine Promotion Office. So many people are so happy about this because, as you know, Dr. Fauci killed many people. So did Deborah Birx. Dr. Fauci killed my grandfather and many others by pushing the vaccine. As you know, Dr. Fauci worked with Bill Gates to try to find a cure for AIDS and HIV, which of course there isn't. There's been speculation that there has been HIV put into the COVID-19 vaccines. There's been speculation that a lot of things have been put into the COVID-19 vaccines. There's speculation that when you go for a flu shot, that they put the spike proteins into the COVID-19 vaccines. I can tell you that I have not taken one COVID-19 vaccine shot at all. I didn't take 1, I didn't take 2, I didn't take 9. I have friends that have taken 1 and deeply regret it. I have friends that have taken 2 and deeply regret it. And I have friends that used to have cancer. They went through radiation, they went through chemo, they became cancer-free. The minute they took the COVID-19 vaccines, guess what? Their cancer came back. I have 2 uncles that have stage 4 cancer. I have one uncle that has stage 4 pancreatic cancer, another uncle that has stage 4 stomach cancer. And I know for a fact that they both took 3 to 4 shots of the COVID-19 vaccine, which spread their cancer and made it from a stage 1 to a stage 4. I also have a friend who's 27 years old. She took 3 shots of the COVID-19 vaccine. She obtained breast cancer at the age of 27. She had a lumpectomy. So both of her breasts were not removed. And guess what? Her cancer came back. And as a result, she had to get a double mastectomy at the age of 27. She was also told by her doctors that she could not have children because of the cancer that she had in her body. And again, I have a lot of friends that were fine, perfectly healthy people. They were professional athletes, professional opera singers, actors and actresses. They took the COVID-19 vaccines because, as you know, it was fully mandated in order to work at certain opera companies or acting agencies, in order to go overseas. Some countries required you to be fully vaccinated. They took 2, 3, 4 jabs of the COVID-19 vaccine. Guess what? They can't breathe anymore. They barely can breathe. They don't have the sustainability of singing like they used to. They don't have the stamina. They can't stand for hours. As an opera singer, you have to have the stamina. You have to be able to breathe, and you have to be able to sing certain operas for hours. A lot of my colleagues can't do that anymore. There was professional divers that lost their record for holding their breath underwater after getting the COVID-19 vaccines. There was reports of women that were on birth control. They took the Johnson & Johnson vaccines, and it messed up their period. It messed up a lot of their ability to have children. Also, it caused a lot of blood clots. Also, my Surgeon General in the state of Florida with perfected data, determined and went in front of the halls of Congress and said that men ages 18 to 39 that took 2 to 3 shots of the mRNA vaccines, which is Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, they suffered permanent myocarditis, which is heart disease, brain aneurysms, strokes, seizures. A lot of men have become sterile because of the COVID-19 vaccines. There was pregnant women that took the COVID-19 vaccines. They lost their babies due to the COVID-19 vaccines, or when they had their babies came out with severe problems. Also, there was stories of pregnant women who got the vaccines. They would breastfeed their children, and their children would die because their breast milk was tainted from the COVID-19 vaccines. These were all things that were kind of poo-pooed by Fauci and poo-pooed by the CDC and the FDA. They finally came out later and admitted that there were side effects to the COVID-19 vaccines. They finally came out and said that the COVID-19 vaccines don't prevent you from getting COVID. You can still get COVID again. Dr. Fauci said he's had 9 shots of the vaccine and he still gets COVID. There's also speculation if a lot of these doctors and congressmen and presidents even got the COVID-19 vaccine. A lot of reports were saying that these elected officials, they got saline put into their arms instead of the COVID-19 vaccines because they knew that Dr. Fauci was literally killing people by putting the COVID-19 vaccines in people. I know for a fact that my grandfather died of both shots of the Pfizer vaccines. My grandfather was perfectly healthy his whole life. He gets 2 shots of Pfizer, then all of a sudden he gets COVID, gets bilateral pneumonia, and then dies. Lot of concerns and side effects from these COVID-19 vaccines. And we have a slide from Cat Turd. How many of you know someone, we'll put that up there, the second slide. Cat Turd, my friend, wrote, how many of you know someone who had major health issues after getting the COVID vaccine? Tell your story here. So Captain Bob Prime told a story. One of my good friends was coerced by her employer and subsequently developed Guillain-Barré and lots of clotting, followed by extensive tumor formation through much of her body. She's no longer able to work and considering hospice for end-of-life care. She's 34 years old. 34 years old. Woman takes the COVID-19 vaccine, ends up with Guillain-Barré's disease, which was common in a lot of men ages 50 and above who took the Johnson & Johnson vaccines. And now she's going to end up in hospice care at the age of 34. She hasn't even lived her entire life yet. Who knows if she's married and had kids? What if she's not married? What if she doesn't have kids? She'll never have kids. These are real stories, people. And I just told you stories of my family. My mother got 1 shot of the Johnson & Johnson. She obtained a red rash on her back for several months. She had to get laser. Dr. Fauci owes her for the laser treatments that my mother had to spend for these vaccines. Again, as a professional opera singer, you have to breathe. That was one of the reasons why I opted not to take them. And it ruined my career. By not taking these, I call them the jabs of death, it did ruin my career. I wasn't able to perform as much. I couldn't perform with the Metropolitan Opera House. They wanted a full vaccination card. A lot of theaters were asking for a full vaccination card. There's still theaters today in liberal states such as Maryland that demand you have a full vaccination card or to prove that you received the COVID-19 vaccine. And I said to them, well, under law, it's not required anymore. You're not mandated to take the vaccine. And I did obtain religious exemption, which worked in a lot of different opera companies nationwide. I was able to obtain medical exemption and religious exemption for some of my colleagues that worked in the federal government that were mandated to take the vaccine in order to keep their jobs. Remember the no jab, no job concept? And I saved a lot of people who worked in the Pentagon. I saved their jobs by getting religious and medical exemption. I wish I had met the majority of the people of the majority of my viewers who took the COVID-19 vaccine. And I know a lot of people that took it, a lot of good people, Trump supporters that took it as well. And President Trump was going through a crisis at the time. He trusted the scientists at the time. But looking back on it now, he doesn't trust the science, not at all. And Dr. Fauci's pardon was just recently revoked. So I hope and pray to God that charges are put into place. That man is charged and goes to jail for crimes against humanity. A lot of people have asked for the death penalty for that man. They called him a Dr. Joseph Mengele. Dr. Joseph Mengele was a very wicked doctor during the Holocaust who did a lot of experiments specifically on children, specifically on twins. And he was a heinous man and killed innocent lives and innocent children. And under the Biden administration, they fully mandated that young kids get the vaccine in order to go to preschool, nursery school, day school. And a lot of those children have bad side effects to this day. I remember watching a video of babies that just took the COVID-19 vaccine and they started shaking like they had Parkinson's disease. That was one of the reasons why my father never took the vaccine. They were getting like nerve twitches. I have a 24-year-old cousin. He took 4 jabs of the vaccine. He had a stroke during Thanksgiving, and he blamed it on dehydration. A stroke at 24 years of age. I went to see a cardiologist after I hiked up a big hill that I hadn't done in a while, and I was out of breath. They told me that the average person that comes into their office is between the ages of 18 and 22. Why would an 18-year-old go see a cardiologist? Why would a 22-year-old go to see a cardiologist? And a lot of young men and women, I heard, are not having sexual relations because when you do, your heartbeat speeds up. But if you took the COVID-19 vaccine and your heart is speeding up like the Hulk, you're going to have a heart attack and stroke and die while you're making love. These are the side effects. There's actually a dating website out there for people that are unvaccinated. It says this is a dating website if you want to find someone who's unvaccinated. A lot of people feel that if you're with someone who's unvaccinated, you'll have children. You won't have problems. You won't get cancer. There's been a lot of reports of people that have had relations with men that are vaccinated, and then the women obtain problems. Like they can't have a period. They have to have an emergency hysterectomy. Or there's women that already went through menopause and all of a sudden their period comes back. These are real stories. I am not making this up. I'm strictly fact-based. But before my family was thinking about getting the vaccines, my sister and I, we showed videos to my mother, my aunts, my uncle, my father, my cousins, to let them know you really need to not be the guinea pig. I'm one of those people, I don't jump on the first fad of the year. And I'm glad that RFK Jr. brought up the dangers of the Gardasil shots. The Gardasil shots was supposed to prevent against certain STDs, but not all forms of herpes. It's a 3-shot process that you have to take. And when I went to the gynecologist, they started pushing that. And it was brand new at the time. I think I was like 19 or 20 years old when they were pushing it. And I said, why do I have to take 3 shots? Why can't it be just a one-stop shop, like a tetanus shot or a booster, or not a booster shot, just like a penicillin, like an antibiotic shot or a steroid shot? It's one shot. You don't have to get 3 antibiotic shots or 1 steroid shot or 1 tetanus shot. 3 tetanus shots. It's 1 tetanus shot, you're done. Why do I have to get 3 shots of this Gardasil? And they said, oh, because 3 individual shots, they both help prevent against certain STDs. And I'm just like, okay. And then they tell you afterwards, they said, well, we can't guarantee that the Gardasil prevents against all STDs. You can still get herpes from skin-on-skin contact. Like if the man uses the condom, you can still get an STD from him. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make me want to take it. And I didn't want to be the guinea pig. I said, well, how long has this shot been out? And they said, it's only been out for like a year. I said, heck no. I'm not taking 3 shots. It's only been out for a year, and it doesn't prevent against all STDs. And this is crazy. It's the same thing with taking Ozempic and the tirzepatide. Ozempic has only been out for a few years. Tirzepatide's only been out for a year and a half. Ozempic and tirzepatide were created for people with diabetes and people that are pre-diabetic. But you have people that want to lose 10 pounds, like myself, and they get prescriptions for Ozempic and tirzepatide just to lose 10 pounds. But what they don't understand is that once you take it, you have to stay on it. It's like a cholesterol pill. If you get off of it, you'll go back to being fat. And then you get the Ozempic phase. But again, people were jumping on the fat. And then the people that really need it, the pre-diabetic, diabetic people that really need Ozempic and tirzepatide, guess what? It's nowhere to be found. So my point is, don't be a follower, be a leader. Research stuff. Like I said, I was in retail. My job was to sell my products, whether it was skincare or makeup. I had clients come up to me and say, I'm going to do my research before buying it. I'm going to look it up and look up the chemicals that are in it, the ingredients. And at first, you get annoyed with those people because I'm there as the trainer. I'm trained on the products. But you know what? I'm glad that my clients went home and really researched the individual ingredient and dissected it like an onion. because everybody has different allergies. Everybody has a different body. I always say that you yourself know what's best for your body. Sometimes a doctor doesn't really know what's best for your body. Sometimes doctors are just there to hand you a test. I know I took an allergy test once and it came back negative, but then the doctor's like, well, you're not allergic to this stuff, but maybe you could be allergic to other things and you should take another allergy test. And if that still comes back negative, then we can have you take another allergy test and another allergy test, another allergy test. Same thing with the COVID-19 vaccine. If you take one shot, you still may get COVID. So let's take a second shot. Oh, you got COVID from getting the second shot. Now it's time to take the booster. Oh, you got COVID again from taking the booster. I think it's time to take another booster. Oh, you're still getting COVID. Let's take the 5th booster. COVID again. You're back here with COVID and the flu, 5th booster. 9th booster. And then after the 9th booster, after you've had COVID like 20 million times, they say, oh, sorry, forgot to tell you, the boosters don't prevent you from getting COVID. They don't prevent you from having all these problems. And then you get a mammogram, or you get a pap smear, or you have a prostate exam or a colonoscopy. And all of a sudden they find stuff after the 9th booster shot. Then they finally tell you, oh, sorry, forgot to tell you, CDC and FDA said that COVID-19 vaccine, there's a possibility you could get cancer. Possibility you could get a blood clot. Possibility you could be on blood thinners the rest of your life. Possibility that you could have aneurysm, heart attack, or stroke. There's a very famous Israeli actress, Gail Gadot. She just got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She had brain tumors while she was pregnant with her 4th child, as she's going into labor. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I think it was a month before she had the baby. So they had to give her surgery to remove her brain tumors before she had her baby. Now, she didn't admit that she took the vaccines or not, but I bet you $5 she did. There's another actress named Teddy Bellicamp. She was on, I think, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She was just diagnosed with a bunch of brain tumors in her head, too. Well, Californians know it was crazy. They mandated everybody to wear a mask. They mandated majority of people to take the vaccine. Gavin Newsom was pushing people to take the vaccine. And guess what? She got brain tumors as she's going through a divorce, by the way. So she's probably saying to herself, well, I got the brain tumors from stress from my divorce. No, you got the brain tumors from taking 50 shots of the vaccine. Let's call a spade a spade. Again, all these actors and actresses that are pushing for the vaccine have a lot of bad side effects due to it. Eric Clapton took AstraZeneca. He's a famous musician. He deeply regrets it. He said he almost died from it. He said he couldn't perform. His fingers got numb. He's a famous guitar player. That's his career. That's why I didn't care if I never sang at certain opera houses ever again, because my life to me is more important. And I'm going to be the last singer standing. And when everybody else can't breathe, and when everybody else has a problem singing and they need a singer, they're going to give me a call. I'm waiting for their calls. Because I read the side effects of these vaccines. But guess what? For years, I couldn't tell people I didn't get fully vaccinated because I would be shadow banned. Dr. Fauci would have come to my home. Somebody would have come to my home and injected the vaccine in me without letting me know. When I went to the doctor's office, they asked me if I was vaccinated or not. I never answered. None of their business. I'm a resident of the state of Florida anyway. All my medical records are with the Department of Health under Governor Ron DeSantis. That's what I tell every doctor in Maryland. Because the minute you write you're not vaccinated, it's on your record for life. Or they have a tracking device on you to say, oh, this person's not vaccinated. And then on your phone, on the iPhone, they have something called COVID exposure. If you click it, it'll let you know if you've been exposed to someone with COVID. And then when the phone bings, oh, you've been exposed to COVID, guess what? It goes to the federal government. It goes to the state government too. And if they see you walking around and they know you've been exposed to COVID, you can go to jail. That's how it was under Joe Biden. That's how it was under Governor Larry Hogan. A rhino Republican governor of Maryland who wants to run for governor again. And look at Australia and all these crazy presidents and prime ministers. The minute you get COVID, they lock you down for 2 or 3 weeks. And if you leave the compound, you go to jail. That's what my mother said to me. Don't travel to China or to Japan or to Australia, New Zealand, because God forbid you get COVID in these countries, you're stuck. I just went on a cruise ship. You tell them you're not feeling well, they make you take a COVID test. And if it's a false positive, guess what? You can't leave your cabin for like a week. Even if you don't have a COVID-19 side effect, they still make you take a COVID test. They actually will kick you off the ship if you don't take a COVID test. They'll kick you off the ship and you're in the middle of nowhere. You have to fend for yourself, they say. And if you take a COVID test and it turns out to be negative, guess what? They still make you quarantine for a day anyway, just in case. Because some people, I guess, that get a negative COVID-19 test, the next day they'll get a positive one. I understand it's a liability. They want to keep the ship safe. They don't want it spreading. But if you force me to take a COVID-19 test and I took it and it comes out negative, you don't lock me in my cabin all day. That's stupid. And if I refuse to take the test, you're going against my constitutional rights by forcing me to take the test. But it's international law, not American law. That actually happened to me, so I'm speaking from experience. I was in international waters, and all I wanted was refills of prescription drugs, and they made me take a COVID-19 test. I couldn't believe it. And they made me literally stay in my cabin for 24 hours. I couldn't go see Pompeii, which is a beautiful country in Italy, with the Bastille. I missed out on like one of the nicest areas of Italy that day. I ended up getting walking pneumonia later. But I can tell you, I didn't go back to the pharmacy in the ship after that day. But it's good that RFK Jr. is taking an initiative here. Because again, there's been a lot of people that have come out and talked about their COVID-19 vaccine experiences. There's a huge Facebook group called Died Suddenly. Well, it's actually not on Facebook. I'm sorry. It's on X, called Died Suddenly. And in the beginning, when it was Twitter, when it was owned by Jack Dorsey, he suppressed everybody's tweets. He would ban you if you talked about your COVID-19 experience. And then Elon Musk takes it over, calls it X. And now, oh my God, the X group has just taken over. And so many stories, millions of stories, not thousands, millions of stories on a day-to-day, on a second-to-second basis of people that are literally fighting for their lives. I had people call me from the COVID ward. I worked in the COVID ward under Governor Ron DeSantis. They were calling me from the COVID ward in different hospitals all over Florida saying, we have COVID-19. We need your help. We took the vaccines. We have COVID-19. We need your help. I gave them, I made sure that they got the monoclonal antibody treatment Regeneron to save their lives. But I'm reading more and more of young people, ages 22, 23, 24, 25, 34, that are having problems because of the vaccines. And if you are one of those people that took the jabs and you've had side effects, you deeply regret it, tell me. Post it on the show tonight. I want to know your story. I want to help you. I want there to be justice for you and for your family. If you have a family member like myself who died of the vaccines, I want to know. You can always message me on Facebook, Alexandra Levine. You can always message me on X at Alexandra LEVI20. It's right there on the overlay. Or on the ticker, excuse me. But these are real stories. And I have friends and family that are suffering from the vaccines, that deeply regret taking them, that were threatened with their jobs if they didn't take it. They couldn't go to the theater if they didn't have it. They couldn't travel. One of my residencies in Montgomery County, Maryland, the county executive, Mark Alrich, the big socialist, He wanted to force full vaccine mandation in Montgomery County. Thank God that the council voted it down. And you know what the argument was? They said Mark Elrich, 92% of the residents that live in Montgomery County got 1 shot. 89% of the residents that live in Montgomery County got 2 shots. Why do you need to fully vaccinate everybody? For what purpose? To be a dictator? And there was other county executives in Maryland that wanted that too. Full vaccine mandations. Governor Westmore would love full vaccine vaccinations, especially for kids. And he would love to fully mask us again. He would love it. So would the Baltimore City mayor. It was a Democrat talking point for years to keep the kids out of school or to push full vaccine mandations for students, for kids. May I remind you, under President Trump, the vaccine was only supposed to be for people 65 years of age and older and people with pre-existing conditions, because President Trump wanted to save our seniors and he felt that the vaccines would help the seniors. Because I know that seniors that got COVID, they got pneumonia, they died. So the vaccine was a way to save a lot of the seniors' lives. But there were some seniors, like I said, like my grandfather, that did die of the vaccine. But that was what the vaccine was originally for people 65 years of age and older, Medicare age and older, and people with pre-existing conditions. It was not forced. It was not mandated under President Trump. President Trump did not force and mandate these vaccines on children and young adults. And he says it to this day. He said, I would never do that. I never will do that. He said there's certain vaccines that young people shouldn't take. And he's been listening to RFK Jr. about the vaccines. That's one of the reasons why RFK Jr. came on our side, became an independent, but also supported and endorsed President Trump, because they came to a happy medium. Again, President Trump will talk to anybody. President Trump will talk to absolutely anybody and agree with someone on reason and compromise. Again, President Trump's not afraid to cross the aisle. I don't know why some elected officials are. That's what makes President Trump a leader. That's what makes him great. But it's very good that RFK Jr. wants to gut the U.S. Vaccine Promotion Office. Again, if you are one of those people that have a horror story about the COVID-19 vaccine, if you have a loved one that is suffering from the vaccines or died from the vaccines, please let me know. At Alexandra Levine on Facebook, at Alexandra Levi20 on X, at AirLevine85 on Instagram, at Levine Consulting on YouTube, and at AirLevine85 on Truth Social. Well, this has been a great 2 hours. We have covered so much. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me. Again, this is Alexandra Levine live on America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent for this network. Again, it is an honor and privilege to be the conservative media outlet, to give you fair and balanced news, but also honest reporting, because I support President Trump. I support his policies. I support his agenda and I support his movement. And that's why I'm in the White House. We are considered the new conservative media, the people that President Trump wants in the White House to report on him fairly and give him a fair voice and a fair chance. And we are the conservative media choice. Again, please don't forget to follow us on Rumble at America's Pulse Network, on YouTube at America's Pulse Network, and also on X at America's Pulse Network. And we also have some great shows. We have the Jersey Shore Show with Damon Galdo, Mondays and Fridays from 8 to 10 p.m. We have the Conservative Corner, which is coming back. It'll be on Sundays. We will keep you abreast. We also just want to let you know our friend from the Conservative Corner, Seth Eisenberg, we're going to put up his GoFundMe right now. There we go. His GoFundMe. As you know, our friend Seth Eisenberg, he was in the hospital for 32 weeks. He's had 5 surgeries on his foot. He almost lost his foot and his toes. He's had a very bad infection in his foot. That's why he's had so many surgeries. He's raised over $3,500. The goal is $25,000. Eventually, we will raise $100,000 for $100,000 for him. And this money is helping pay his bills. He hasn't been able to work. He's got a mortgage. He's got a child to support. He has himself to support. And we support him. He is also a veteran. He served in our Navy. So we need to give back to him. Anything you guys can do, $10, $20, $50, $100. If you're a veteran, please give. We would really appreciate it. Please go to his GoFundMe, gofundme.com/F/Jonah-Eisenberg-overcome-health-crisis. And you can always message me too to find more information about his GoFundMe. Seth has been putting out Facebook posts about his health. Unfortunately, his white blood cell count went up. So he's a little nervous that he may have to go back into the hospital. He had a little bit of a fever again. It was like over 100 degrees. That's because of the infection that's possibly still in his foot. He may have to go on other antibiotics, but we pray for him every single day. But he will be on our network, and he is a big part of our network. And please go to his GoFundMe and donate. And we also have some other shows coming up in the near future, and we will keep you abreast of that. And again, thank you guys for listening. And the reason you listen and the reason you watch is you are no idiot.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, Elena, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.